Kunjabihari Jaya Excuse me. Toradan ki jai. Bhakti Devi Dasi Maharani ki jai. My Pradhan Ki Jai, Navadvitam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the seven devotees, all glories to the seven devotees, all glories to the seven devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraya Nashtakayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Okay, before reciting this is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasdev, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we're reading today from the first canto, chapter 15, verse 16. The purport was very long, and so we had to get into two classes. We did elaborately chant the verse yesterday, word for word and all. So perhaps today we could just chant the verse together and not do word for word or anything. I'll chant the first line and then we say it again. Yado Shuma. Is this it? Yeah. Yado Shuma Pranitam Guru Bhishma Karna. Yado Shuma Pranitam Guru Bhishma Karna. Naptri Trigartha Shalya Saindava Palikadhyai. Naptri Trigartha Shalya Saindava Palikadhyai. Astranyamoga Mahimani Nirupitani. Astranyamoga Mahimani Nirupitani. Nobhas Prishur Vriharidasam Iva Surani. Nobhas Prishur Vriharidasam Iva Surani. Okay. Translation. Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Susharma, Shalya, Jayadratha, and Malika all directed their invincible weapons against me. But by his, Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev, was unaffected by the weapons the demons used against him. Okay, thank you. Was this Radharani's? Very nice. Okay.
Yes.
So we read the first half of the purport. We're very fortunate, actually, to have such a nice, elaborate purport. I was thinking because, of course, Arjuna is speaking to Yudhishthira, and all these different names of these different great generals and all are well known to them, but they're not well known to us. And so we're very fortunate that actually Prabhupada gave a detailed purport about some of them that are very important. So, the purport. Nabdi, or Bodhishrava. Bodhishrava was the son of Somadat, a member of the Kuru family. His other brother was Shalya. Both the brothers and the father attended the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi. All of them appreciated the wonderful strength of Arjuna due to his being the devotee friend of the Lord, and thus Bodhishrava advised the sons of Dhritarashtra not to pick any quarrel or fight with them. All of them also attended the Rajasuya sacrifice, the yajna of Maharaj Yudhishthira. He possessed one Okshahini regiment of army, cavalry, elephants, and chariots, and all these were employed in the battle of Kuruksetra on behalf of Duryodhana's party. He was counted by Bhima as one of the Utipatis. In the battle of Kuruksetra, he was especially engaged in a fight with Satyaki, and he killed 10 sons of Satyaki. Later on, Arjuna cut off his hands, and he was ultimately killed by Satyaki. After his death, he merged into the existence of Vishvadev. So that was Nabdi. All right, Trigarta, or Shusharma. The son of Maharaj Vrindakshetra, he was the king of Trigartesha, Trigartadesh. And he was also present in the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi. He was one of the allies of Duryodhana, and he advised Duryodhana to attack Matsyadesh, Darbhanga. During the time of cow stealing in Viratanagara, he was able to arrest Maharaj Virata, but later Maharaj Virata was released by Bhima. In the battle of Kuruksetra, he also fought very valiantly, but at the end, he was killed by Arjuna. Jayadratha, another son of Maharaj Vrindakshetra, was the king of Sindhudesh, modern Sindh, Pakistan. His wife's name was Dushala. He was also present in the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi, and he desired very strongly to have her hand, but he failed in the competition. But since then, he has always sought the opportunity to get in touch with Draupadi. When he was going to marry in the Shalyadesh on the way to Kamyavan, he happened to see Draupadi again and was too much attracted to her. The Pandavas and Draupadi were then in exile after losing their empire in gambling, and Jayadratha thought it wise to send news to Draupadi in an illicit manner through Kotishasya, one of his associates. Draupadi at once refused vehemently the proposal of Jayadratha, but being so much attracted by the beauty of Draupadi, he tried again and again. Every time he was refused by Draupadi. He tried to take her away forcibly on his chariot, and at first Draupadi gave him a good dashing, and and he fell like a cut-root tree. But he was not discouraged, and he was able to force Draupadi to sit on the chariot. This incident was seen by Doma Muni, and he strongly protested the action of Jayadratha. He also followed the chariot, and through Datrayika, the matter was brought to the notice of Maharaj Yudhishthira. The Pandavas then attacked the soldiers of Jayadratha and killed them all. And at last, Bhima caught hold of Jayadratha and beat him very severely, almost dead. Then all but 5 hairs were cut off his head, and he was taken to all the kings and introduced as the slave of Maharaj Yudhishthira. He was forced to admit himself to be the slave of Maharaj Yudhishthira before all the princely order. And in the same condition, he was brought before Maharaj Yudhishthira. Maharaj Yudhishthira was kind enough to order him released, and when he admitted to being a tributary prince under Maharaj Yudhishthira, Queen Draupadi also desired his release. After this incident, he was allowed to return to his country. Being so insulted, he went to Gangotri in the Himalayas and undertook a severe type of penance to please Lord Shiva. He asked his benediction to defeat all the Pandavas, at least one at a time. Then the battle of Kuruksetra began, and he took sides with Duryodhana. In the first day's fight, he was engaged with Maharaj Drupada, then with Virata, and then with Abhimanyu. While Abhimanyu was being killed, mercilessly surrounded by 7 great generals, the Pandavas came to his help, but Jayadratha, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, repulsed them with great ability. At this, Arjuna took a vow to kill him, and on hearing this, Jayadratha wanted to leave the warfield and asked permission from the Kauravas for this cowardly action. But he was not allowed to do so. On the contrary, he was obliged to fight with Arjuna. And while the fight was going on, Lord Krishna reminded Arjuna that the benediction of Shiva upon Jayadratha was that whoever would cause his head to fall on the ground would die at once. Krishna therefore advised Arjuna to throw the head of Jayadratha directly onto the lap of his father, who was engaged in penances at the Samanta Panchaka pilgrimage. This was actually done by Arjuna. Jayadratha's father was surprised to see a severed head on his lap, and he at once threw it to the ground. The father immediately died, his forehead being cracked into 7 pieces. Okay. Om Jnana Tinandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chashur Mitanyena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitanyena Bhutale Svayabhuta Kadammayam Vedati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuthapad Kamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Sadvaitan Sadatitam Sahadana Lalita Shri Shakhanvitanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Bhadan Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakhanvitanscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapa Tuvascha Pipasimdevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauranga Chaitanya Shesha Srimad Vishtaditeshtaini Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so excuse me. Very cold and dry now in West Virginia. So, we're starting to be able to get into some details about the Battle of Kuruksetra here. Arjuna is remembering how he can't do anything without Krishna's mercy. And I want to talk a little bit. I looked up about Jayadratha because there he was abducting Draupadi. What happened was Jayadratha was on the way to marry somebody, I forget who, didn't write it down, a princess. And on the way, he saw Draupadi again, and so he stopped going to get his princess, and he went after Draupadi. And it was funny. I wrote here that this guy won't take no for an answer. You know. I mean, there she is with 5 husbands. So what? She's living in the forest right now. And he goes and tries to, abduct her and actually forces her onto his chariot. It's like too much, Just too much. What happened was then they had to go after Jayadratha. They heard from Datrayika, witnessed Jayadratha forcefully taking Draupadi away. So I thought that was a little strange that the Pandavas didn't know immediately that their wife had been taken. I guess they were off. Well, they were all hunting. It said they were all hunting and gathering food, so they didn't know. And so they all get on their chariots and rush after. And then they found out, they understood that they had caught up to the point where Jayadratha was about like 2 miles ahead of them. And in the Mahabharat it says that Arjuna goes and uses a divine weapon and is able to kill Jayadratha's horse 2 full miles ahead. He used a divine weapon, and that's how they managed to get Draupadi back. And then, of course, they took Jayadratha as a prisoner, so to speak, and Bhima had him go around to all the different princes and declare that he was indeed a slave to Yudhishthira. And then Draupadi also, both Yudhishthira and Draupadi decided, all right, let him go. He's humiliated enough. So he did. He went back to his. Actually, he didn't go back to his kingdom. He handed his kingdom over to his wife, Jayadratha, and went and performed severe austerities to get a benediction from Shiva. And his benediction was that he could kill the Pandavas. And Lord Shiva granted him that benediction. He said, everybody except Arjuna. He wasn't allowed to kill Arjuna. And then it says, and then 2 years later, there he is fighting on the side with Duryodhana. And on the first day, it sounds like he killed King Drupada. Oh no, it says he defeated him, but he spared him. And unfortunately, Jayadratha was very much a key player in what happened with Abhimanyu, because so what happened was Jayadratha has this boon from Lord Shiva that he can defeat the Pandavas, and so he chose this day to use that boon, and he was able to hold off all the generals, and so Abhimanyu was able to be surrounded and killed, unfortunately. That was not a proper way. So another thing I got from all this new part of the Bhagavatam is the war of Kuruksetra was quite a formidable war. I mean, we actually have the demigods took birth specifically to help, to assist Lord Krishna in getting rid of the burden on the earth. These heavy military complexes, which seem to be burdening the earth again these days. And in the purport, verse 15, Prabhupada mentions that there were powerful espionage and quite advanced military tactics. It shows that Dronacharya, he had to arrange 3 different vyuhas to protect Jayadratha from Arjuna. So they have all these super complex, detailed military tactics, and then there's also these diplomatic maneuvers. Now, one of the diplomatic maneuvers I thought about was when Arjuna and Krishna and a few of the Pandavas had to finally go to grandfather Bhishma and ask him how they can kill him. I made a point how we understand that there were military codes of conduct that both parties were agreeing to. Of course, sometimes some people were a little bit tricky. I wrote here that you can't cheat Krishna. He's the original source of cheaters, and you can't trick him either. Although Krishna was tricky in the battle of Kuruksetra, he kind of showed Arjuna how to kill Jarasandha. Jarasandha was the great military general. He was put together in 2 places, and so I recall the story was that Arjuna and Krishna and a bunch of people, they were talking, and Krishna had a piece of grass in his hand, and he pulled the grass apart into 2 pieces, and that was like a visual indication. He was letting Arjuna know how to kill Jarasandha. So there is all kinds of different espionage and intrigue and diplomatic maneuvers going on in this great war. The main point, I wrote that today's wars are like, compared to like the Battle of Kuruksetra, what to speak of, there's also this other really heavy war that went on between the demigods and demons in the 8th canto. And we hear about all kinds of mystic potencies. Bhishma invoked a celestial weapon covering Abhimanyu with thousands of arrows. Uttara rushed at Salya, riding upon a gigantic elephant. Gadachak is, I'm thinking maybe not. Well, Gadachak was on the Pandava side. He made himself invisible and began to create all kinds of mystic illusions. He actually created an illusion. I think it was him. Yeah, he creates an illusion where all the Kauravas are seeing all the soldiers of the Kaurava army getting cut up into pieces, And seeing that Duryodhana and Shalya and Karna saw that the soldiers saw their leaders running away. So Ghatochak is creating this illusion. All the soldiers are seeing that everybody's getting cut to pieces, and they're getting cut to pieces. And then they're trying to, the Kauravas are trying to let the soldiers know, no, it's just an illusion. It's not really happening. But in the meanwhile, the soldiers are running away. So there are all kinds of, wild, interesting tactics being used in the battle. Arjuna had a son named Iravan, and his mother was a Naga widow. And he was so formidable, he was surrounded by the 6 Sakuni brothers, and he was able to kill 5 of them. I kind of didn't mention what happened to the 6th one. I was just skimming through the Mahabharat mainly to pick up some ideas of what was going on with this battle, because it was heavy. And then at sunset, everything stops. Everything stops to the point where, like I said, Arjuna and Krishna, I don't know if it was a Krishna, he went also to inquire from grandfather Bhishma in the evening, how they could kill him. And in the meanwhile, King Dhritarashtra is being informed by Sanjaya what's going on, how the war was progressing, and in one passage I read it, the king was despondent, and Sanjaya just told him straight out, the Pandavas are pious and virtuous, and they have Krishna, and your sons are wicked and cruel. So the Pandavas are going to win, because virtue wins over cruelness. And then also Bhishma told Dhritarashtra how Krishna and Arjuna are directly the incarnation of Narayan. So Dhritarashtra, he kind of knew right away. So Lord Krishna, he assembled the armies to rid the earth of the burden. And he says right in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 7, Yadahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya sambhavami yuge. I hope I said that right. Again and again he comes to rid the earth of demoniac energies and reestablish the devotees. So one thing I noted, in one class we did say that how we understood that like 6 billion soldiers were killed. Was it 6 billion, I think? So it was quite expansive. And then also I noted that I think the earth was a lot bigger than, when I listened to classes by Sadhguru, he does talk about how the water surrounding Varsha, it rises and lowers, and so at that point it was low, and there was a lot of land with a lot of people. It was
what
just
rises?
the water. The water levels on Varsha rise and lower, and then expose or cover land for people to live on. So I wrote here that Lord Krishna, he always is desiring to have loving interaction with his parts and parcels, and he is totally involved in what's going on. I'm very surprised that there's unlimited universes, and in each of the universes there's pastimes going on. And Krishna and Arjuna and the Pandavas and everybody, they're appearing again and again and again in so many universes. Krishna is totally involved in our life. And this is some message that, having been born in a Christian background in the West, I never really understood that God was like very much personally interested in me. And so God was always somebody. He took care of me. He's my supreme Father, divine Father. He takes care of me, but He's up there doing whatever, and I'm down here. And whenever I have a problem, I can pray to Him, but that's about as much as I understood. He was involved in what's going on with me down here. But according to the Vedic scriptures, that's not true at all. God is so much involved with each of us. I thought that was a nice story that I think it was Anutama told us. He was in that group session with different people sharing. They were sharing their pain. They were sharing their pain and what they had overcome.
How they could thank Krishna for it.
Oh yeah, to thank Krishna for it. And that and she had the realization that how her heart was so much pain just by losing her baby, and how much Krishna is pain by losing us because we're His babies. And that was very nice. So what I wanted to say was that I'm trying to really embrace and understand how much Krishna loves us, that He is constantly involved with what's going on here in the material world. I heard this one class in Mayapur, and the Mataji said that Krishna, one of his favorite activities is to come here and engage in Leela to attract us back to the spiritual world. He cares for us, and He's not just leaving us here to make our bed and then lie in it. No, He actually wants to help us, even if we got into a bad state. He wants to help us come home. His only desire is to have a loving relationship with us. So, okay. So I'd like to stop here and ask for any additions, any corrections, any realizations. All right, please. I said don't use the mic, don't worry about the mic. The mic is not broadcasting on Mayapur TV. And when we use the mic, then it distorts the audio on Facebook.
But I've noticed that I can hear people when they use the mic. If they do not use, I cannot hear them.
No, it's not broadcasting. The wireless for questions, it doesn't broadcast on Mayapur TV. They rewired the mixer, and I don't know what's going on, but the mic is not broadcasting the questions. So the questions are broadcast on Facebook.
Oh, that's on Facebook.
Because of this, yeah, it's very, very powerful mic. And in fact, when they used the wireless mic to ask the questions, then it would distort hearing the questions on Facebook, and we weren't hearing them at all.
But also why we need to use it, because if there's a lot of devotees here, they do not hear each other. So maybe for the online it's one thing, but another aspect is that we can hear.
Because it does definitely help. It comes through the speaker, huh? The mic.
Yeah, so that's for the audience here. Okay. I mean, now we don't have many devotees, so it doesn't matter really. So, Thank you so much. I'm impressed that you know, that, and I would, Mahabharat is not my thing, so I would not be able to say much about it. So
right, I feel bad because I haven't really studied it extensively.
But you said, you know,
I looked up, yeah.
so nicely. I was just curious. You said that, you know, there were all the strange tactics used in the battles, and you mentioned about Gadotkac and his illusion game he did. I'm just wondering, was that not against the fighting moral codes, you know, they had? And it seems like this was not like, that would be against how the codes of fighting.
Obviously not, because they're using mystic celestial weapons all over the place, I'm telling you. And when you read like the war that went on in the 8th canto, it was describing the carriers, you know, they were riding tigers and crocodiles and elephants and human beings. So that my gods were riding human beings as part, you know, the human beings were described as one of the carriers. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Hollywood could have a field day with I'm surprised they haven't like made a super duper movie yet with all this mystic powers. When I was reading the different passages, you know, in the Mahabharata, I mean, what they were doing with their arrows, you know, it's like, I don't know, it seems to me they needed about 1,000 arms to shoot out how many arrows they were saying, but whatever. There's some like powerful generals, soldiers. Yes, Yudhishthira.
Yes, I sometimes watch this television show called Ancient Aliens, and it has come to my attention that the modern day scientists and archaeologists have made recent discoveries that have pointed to the ancient Sanskrit literatures having you know, the Vimana technologies, the Brahmastra, you know, nuclear technology. And they found, you know, physical evidence in India and in other places of nuclear explosions where the sand had been melted into glass. This can only happen with a nuclear explosion. So they have definite evidence that these ancient you know, civilizations had possessed a very much more advanced technology than we have today. And they're relating it to the Vedas, you know. I see this on a constant basis. They realize that these are not just fables or, you know, they're actual accounts of what happened historically in the past, and how the demigods visited the earth on a regular basis, and that you know, they were using all these incredible mystic powers, you know, and they've made these correlations all around the world of the architecture of these different ancient civilizations that are almost identical, from South America to, you know, India and all over, the same techniques. And so, you know, we all know that Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigods, you know, was in charge of all these incredible constructions, and they still are on the planet today. And so, you know, I just wanted to mention how they're beginning to understand that this is not just, you know, stories or fables. They actually are beginning to realize more and more.
I don't know, I think it's just a new generation of scientists reading the books and finding out, but they've known for hundreds of years. I just saw a documentary, they were talking about how they had giant skeletons, you know, they were bound for 200 years, but they just buried the information. They bury the information to keep the people in ignorance, because if you keep people in ignorance, then you can control them. And this is so Kali Yuga right now. I mean, they're just keeping people in the dark, you know? So, yes, whenever we come across any information about aliens or giants or any of that stuff, as Hare Krishnas, it's like, old news. Because we have these wonderful, wonderful purports by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, explaining to us, step by step, the way things really are in creation. That's what I'm saying as a Christian. The idea of God being so much involved in what's going on in this material creation, it's revealing, and it softens my heart. It softens my heart to want to get to know Krishna, because he didn't give up on me, and he wants me in his life, So, as Hare Krishnas, yes, knowing the Vedic scriptures, we know that about all this, and that it's factual, but unfortunately, the scientists, quite a few, they're very much into hiding the evidence to put forward their own agenda, for sure. And the agenda is to control the people, keep them in ignorance, and use them as animals, to exploit. Anybody else?
I wanted to make an addition. I was listening to when you were discussing Gatotkač.
Yeah.
I was really interested in this part of Mahabharat in particular because Gatotkač is actually the son of Bhima.
Okay.
And back when they were in the House of Black, when there were mirrors everywhere reflecting everything, there was a point where Nakula, who was kind of into his appearance, he's admiring his reflection in a mirror, and Bhima, kind of chastising him jokingly, says, oh, that's a face that only a mother could love. And Nakula says back to him, well, be careful, Bhima, with a face like yours, you'll end up being married to an ogress, a Rakshasa. And this actually happens later on when they're in an illusory forest where this demon Hidimba and Hidimba Bhima ends up killing the guy and marrying the ogre, so that way he can become king and take care of the ogres. But he's got to travel with the Pandavas. He can't just sit there and take care of the kingdom. And so she says, "Don't worry, I know how to make a solution. We'll conceive of a son." And he's like, "Yeah, but he's so little. How will he be able to take care of the kingdom?" So don't worry. So they did this. I don't know exactly. It was like a magic or a mantra or something. But Gatotkač is born as a full-grown man.
Oh my goodness.
And he's bald.
Uh-huh.
And so Bhima sees that he's bald, and it reminds him of the steel pot. And Gatotkač means steel pot because he's bald-headed. So it's really interesting that the Pandavas, on the side of the good guys, was the son of a half demon, half Rakshasa that was out there on the battlefield.
But he was cursed, almost like a curse by Nakula. That's what, right?
Yeah, because of what he said. That you'll probably get married to an ogress, and it actually came to pass.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, yeah, I didn't realize. So Bhima is Gatotkač's father.
Yeah.
Oh, far out. Okay.
We were in Kulumanari when there is actually like a temple or shrine for Hidimbi, I think.
Interesting. That's cool.
Here there's a mention of a great general named Alambusa, and he these guys are creating, he created 2,000 fierce Rakshasas riding on swift horses. I was reading about the battle in the 8th canto. The Muni has the ability, he brings all the soldiers who are not, who are whole, they're dead, but if they didn't have any limb cut off, he brought all of them back to life. How on earth can you win a war like this? You're just creating thousands of soldiers out of nothing, and the ones that are dead you bring back to life. It's no wonder it managed to end. No wonder it managed to end. All the mystic illusions and Hare Krishna, I'm telling you.
Who created all those soldiers?
They all had their different powers. powers. They all had different powers. So these different generals and would do things, you know? Gadadkata created an illusion where the soldiers were seeing that everybody around them was totally getting cut to pieces, and I remember he was cutting up, oh my goodness, he was cutting up one guy, and he was real powerful, so he was able to seam himself back together as he was being cut apart, you know? The Mahabharat's quite a read, isn't it? But through all this, the one thing that I came across is that Arjuna's realization is that Krishna is behind everything. He didn't create this place and then take off. He is very, very involved, and he's very, very involved with each one of us. Like that mom had the realization that she lost her baby and she's hankering, and she had the realization, we're Krishna's babies. He doesn't want to lose us.
He lost us.
He lost us.
Like missing
Yes.
us.
Yes, that's so comforting. That's so comforting. Even as a Christian, I knew I had a father who cared for me, but he was kind of up there in the clouds. And now to find out that, oh no, he's very much involved with everything that's going on. And my point that we are indeed very fortunate to have the elaborate purports of Srila Prabhupada to give us inside information on what exactly is going on. And how he really just wants us to turn to him and be happy. Chant, be happy. Okay. So is that it? Thank you so much. I made it through the hour.